Hello, my name is Petra. Today is January 2nd of 2025, and I want to talk to you about my diabetes. So, I had mentioned yesterday during my intro video that I am diabetic. Officially, I've been diagnosed with type 2, but that's just because nothing about my diabetes is really type 1. I act like type 1, as in not taking gobs and gobs of insulin, like a type 2, because I don't have high insulin resistance most of the time. There's definitely days where insulin's like water, but, that's a whole different story. It happens to every diabetic that takes insulin. But I was diagnosed at age 40. I actually thought that I was going to escape the family curse of getting diabetes. Usually, my family members on my dad's side become diabetic at somewhere between like age 25 to 35. I made it to 40 years, 1 month, and 1 week. And then I ended up diabetic. I was probably diabetic for a couple years before, but I had started eating keto for another condition I have, the lipedema, which I'll talk about in a future video. So that controlled my blood sugar until it didn't. I went on vacation. I was not eating keto. I was really, really thirsty. It's like this thirst that just would not go away. Had this really god-awful dry mouth. I was hungry all the time, and no matter how much I was eating, I was still losing weight. What was happening is I was slowly sliding into DKA, or diabetic ketoacidosis. So, while in the States, made an appointment with my Dutch doctor to get my blood drawn as soon as I got back, except for before I even got to that appointment, my eyesight went blurry. I got home, and literally the next day I woke up, I really couldn't see anything. I could see light and dark, that was about it. Everything else was blurry. So immediately got my blood drawn the next morning. Doctor was calling me, my house art was calling me at 7 in the morning. This never happens. Usually you don't even talk to him about non-emergency situations until like 3 in the afternoon. 7 in the morning, of course, I'm going through my head. I honestly knew that this was going to be my diagnosis. Everything just pointed towards it. And sure enough, my blood sugar was 18.6, which is something like 340 if you use the MGDL. Over here in the Netherlands, we use the MMOL. So that's why you hear the lower numbers. So yeah, went in and immediately they put me on metformin, which is the first line for any diabetic, because they assume because I was 40 years old and I'm fat that type 2, that I ate myself this way. That's not how type 2 works, by the way. So go into the nurse practitioner that deals with the diabetic type 2 patients, and she was like, you can't eat bread, you can't drink juice anymore. And I'm like, I eat keto. With my diet, I really have no place else to go. And I was explaining to her that I don't eat bread, I don't eat fruit. I mean, blueberries, raspberries, stuff like that. But I don't eat like bananas and apples and stuff like that. I don't eat starch. So there was no place for me to go dietary. I already eat this way because it's inflammatory and it drives the lipedema absolutely nuts, the lymphedema absolutely nuts. So yeah, I don't think it ever got through her head that she had a patient that ate this way. The metformin didn't work. Basically, I still stayed high. It did drop me down to about 13, 14. But I also think that was just my body evening out. I don't think that the medication really had anything to do with it. It did make me poop myself. That wasn't very pleasant. That was actually at a conference in the States. That was pretty miserable. And how I knew it wasn't working is I went on a 6-hour hike fasted out in the desert, and my blood sugar actually went up instead of down. That's not how it's supposed to work. Exercise is supposed to lower it. However, I found out that if you don't have any insulin on board, that, yeah, there's nothing to work on it, so your body is putting out this energy into your blood, your hero liver, and there's only one place for it to go up because there's nothing to bring it down. So, yeah, in the absence of insulin, your blood sugar is just going to go up during exercise. Because, of course, their adrenaline also drives it up and stuff like that. So I took this evidence and I'm like, I don't think I'm actually type 2. And I found out that there's this thing called LADA, latent something. It's basically type 1 in adults, diagnosed at a later age. It comes on a lot slower than it does with kids, but it's still type 1. And they're like, yeah, maybe, but we'll test you for antibodies. So they did. I don't have antibodies, but I respond very well to insulin. I don't take a lot. I convinced them to put me on it instead. They did try Ozempic. That was probably the worst experience of my life. I didn't eat anything except for macadamia nuts for about 2 weeks. And, it also caused drug-induced neuropathy in my feet. That hurt. And I have to wear compression stockings for the lipedema because it gave me lymphedema and everything will just swell really, really badly. So having those compression stockings rubbing on the top of my feet felt like I was on fire. Basically, I sat on the floor and cried for like 2 weeks. It was horrible. And then I convinced my internist. Over here we have internists, not endos. I convinced my internist and my diabetic nurse, who's like a nurse practitioner just for diabetes, to put me on insulin. So, yeah, that was my diagnosis story. They still refuse to make me a type 1 or type 1B, which is type 1 without antibodies. But they do recognize that I can't do just basal insulin, which is your background insulin that you are supposed to take once or twice a day, and that I need fast acting for my food. Even low carb food will raise me and just keep me up there. So I need something to bring me back down. And at a certain point, I was having really difficulty with exercising because once you put the insulin into your body with a pen, it's there. You're on that roller coaster for the duration. There's no coming off. So I convinced them to put me on a insulin pump, which I have been on ever since. So this side is my insulin pump. It's this little pod thing. This is called a Kaleido. Really cool little insulin pump. It's made by a Dutch company. It's not big at all. So I mean, that's the size. You get two, one to wear, one to charge. So I have something called Black Magic. It's silver and black because I go to a lot of concerts. I like wearing black and stuff like that. Goth industrial concerts. And yeah, like I say, I like wearing black. You get this little charger to put it on. So like I say, you have one to wear, one to charge. And then it is controlled by what I like to call my iPod. There are some people who actually think it's iPod. What's really cool is there's a lot of colors and stuff, so you can really customize it. I have a backup box, and I think I have red and orange in that. And then this little thing here, the controls, you can choose a color as well. And then you turn it on, you have like alerts. I don't know if you can actually see that. That's actually an alert. And then you have the controls. Kinda. Yeah. So it's been pretty cool. What's the nice thing about the insulin pump is when I get ready to exercise, I can start backing off the insulin. I need to have as little on board as possible. I need to have about 0.10, 0.15 unit on board to keep my blood sugar from skyrocketing, but keep myself from plummeting as well, because you don't want to eat a lot of sugar you don't want to feed the diabetes. That's one of the big things, is not feeding the diabetes. And then over on this side, this side, is my glucose meter. So I have it hacked. I wear the Freestyle Libre 2 because of laws in the Netherlands. Anyone that injects insulin 4 times or more a day or is on a pump can have the right to it. We just got an update to make it into a CGM, so it's continuous and you don't have to scan it, flash it, which is what you have to do with this thing, is you'd flash it or with your phone. And, but I've been using something called Xtrip for a long time to kind of hack it and make it into a CGM. It makes it a lot easier, so then I can read it on my phone. A little bit high, but not too bad, especially since here in about an hour it will start plummeting again. Because our sensitivities, anybody, diabetic or not, our sensitivities and resistances are not static. They're dynamic. Certain hours, they're higher, lower. So, yeah, that's a big help with the insulin pump because you can actually set it so a certain amount of insulin. So if you're insanely sensitive at a certain time period, you can set it really low. But if you're really resistant, like I am at 3 a.m., I can jack it up and make sure that spike, stays as even as possible. So yeah, that is my diabetic diagnosis story. Don't really have much more to say about it. My A1C or HbA1c is usually good. I think it's around a 60, which I don't know. It's like a 7%. I don't know. We use the MMOL over here, so yeah, it's 50, 60, perfectly good. Yeah, if you have any questions about diabetes or anything, let me know. If I happen to have to change my pump or my sensor before a video, I will make one and make sure that is the content for the day. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the sauna here in the Netherlands and Germany, so stay tuned.